Okay, let's try to do the electron in Tetrahedraverse. The electron is the gaps inside a cage of 6 of Tetrahedraverse's points. This thing is a little bit wobbly, but packed as tight as they can be packed. In here are the gaps. I have no idea whether you can actually see those little red things in there or not. They're rubber bands. These are the full-size points. The limits of their repulsion surrounds behave like spheres. So a sphere packing can model it well. We'll look at our old friend here for a second. This is the points in their gapped or not gapped arrangements. This is what it would look like if it were a ball packing. This little puppy is difficult. It can drag frame or not drag frame. Protons always drag frame. When physics goes looking with their instruments for an electron, they're looking for that little guy inside, those 3 crossed gaps inside. They don't detect these. These are invisible to physics. Let me take a side trip here for a second to non-locality. Any connection with no gap in it is a non-local connection, in the sense that if this point moves immediately. On the other hand, if there's gap present, this point can move all the way to close up the gap before this point starts to move. That's why there's time in gapped sections and it's local, and no time in non-gapped connections, so it's non-local. An example of non-locality as opposed to locality would be if you took a line of 15 billiard balls, pool balls, and lined them up on a table all touching, and you stroked the cue ball into the first ball, the last ball would take off immediately. If you lined the same 15 balls up again on the pool table and left a ½ inch of space between each one and stroked the cue ball into the first ball, it would go clickety 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 click, and some time would be taken before the last ball takes off. Touching, non-local connection, instant movement at great distances. Non-local connection, gaps between them, time appears and can be worked with. The network of vertex order 12, because it is gapped everywhere and not gapped everywhere, and because the sets of non-gapped everywheres and the sets of gapped everywheres are interpenetrated intimately, as they are in this 13-point chunk. Non-locality is inherent in the universe, and configurational information goes from one place to another instantly, non-locally. Our little electron can be deformed by enough force and enough push. It can be turned into a boat, what's called a boat. Go look at Wolfram Math World for what a boat looks like. Likewise, a boat can be turned back into a regular octahedron electron. What this means is that if there's an electron on one side of a potential barrier, we're talking about tunneling here, on one side of a potential barrier, and a boat on the other side, and there is enough of differential push, shove, the electron on one side can turn into a boat, disappear as an electron, and the boat on the other side can turn into an electron. You go from a regular octahedron to a boat, and from a boat to a regular octahedron. And nothing moves in between. The electron doesn't travel. It just disappears in one location. This is tetrahedraverse. Sorry, folks. Disappears in one location, appears in the other location. Now, if physics goes looking for an electron, all three of these little gaps inside have to be perfectly crossed before physics can find an electron. If only two of them are crossed in the same location in space, physics will detect a photon. Interestingly enough, this puppy is orthogonal. It's 90 degrees in here. Photon we talked about earlier is not. It's spherical. It's a spherical approximate. The probability of detecting, what these little guys in here are, the probability of detecting an electron or a photon in any one of three orientations, three polarizations. Okay, that was an attempt, and I may upload it and I may not. I would rather that were clearer, but here's our tetrahedraverse electron. We got more coming. Thank you.